It's my pleasure to present Amaia Celaya Álvarez, Resilience Advisor, United Nations International Organization for Migration and European Commission. Thank you, Maya.
Thanks for the invitation. I'm super happy to be here. My presentation goes about cities, because I don't know if you know that in 2050, the 80% of the world is going to be urban. So we have two possibilities. The cities have to be the solution, or the cities have to be the solution. I bring to the table a particular example. I'm going to talk about a city in Romania, in the north of Romania, within the Carpathian Mountains. There, we are developing a European project under the framework of the Urban Innovative Actions. It's important for me to stress the fact that we are here piloting, and this is something that is very important, because the system has been piloting with us as human beings for a lot of time, and because of this we are now suffering certain health and environmental consequences, and now we need to pilot. We need to be conscious that we have not the answer, the right final answer. We need to pilot and to see what could or not work. And here, what we are doing is piloting. So we are risking, and we are trying to see how potential solutions could work. In this case, for, as you see on the screen, pollution of soil. I know that when we talk about environmental pollution, we usually think by default about air, or perhaps a bit about water, but no, environmental is soil, is water, and it's air. And in this case, there is a severe issue with soil pollution out of industrial pasts in, I don't want to use the word developed, rich countries, let's say the countries in which we have had industry. And in this case, you can see there the numbers. In this city, we have a heavy contamination out of heavy metals. This city is a Roman city. The gold coins of the Austro-Hungarian Empire were labeled there. Baia Mare in Romanian means big mine, so you can imagine. and you see there the numbers. So we have a lot of square meters contaminated 5 times over the acceptable limits. What does it mean for health? Well, Baia Mare suffered the second most severe environmental crisis after Chernobyl in Europe in year 2000. I don't know if you knew about that. So at that moment, the mines decided to close. So now we have water pollution, air pollution, and soil pollution, as I was explaining, but beyond that, we have a city in crisis, health crisis, of course, with some data that all of you that come from this discipline that is not my discipline, the health one, you understand much better than me. So we are facing this situation in the city. And of course, it doesn't come only with health. We have no jobs. We have not a flourishing economy. We have environmental degradation. So when we are talking about One Health, we are talking really about all the legs of what does it mean to think holistically. So people, planet, prosperity, beyond profit, I hope. And something that for me it's also very, very important, that is this concept of resilience, which means that we need to advance to the potential cascade effects of all the actions that we are undertaking now. And this is very, very different and of our usual way of thinking, and very difficult, I know, and no proposal is perfect, but at least we can try to minimize the negative impacts of our current actions. In this case, what it was decided in this project, the Smart Post-Industrial Regenerative Ecosystem Project, SPIRE, in the city, was to integrate nature-based solutions to clean the soil. So basically here we are trying to clean the soil and try to see what kind of cascade effects this cleaning could have. How do we clean the soil? With phytoremediation. So the magic of some plants that it has been discovered that clean the soil. So the roots of marvelous, and then I have been searching about that, and it's a sacred tree, that is the willow. The roots of the willow clean the soil of heavy metals. And the willows, along with other species, have been planted in Bayamar. You saw the slide before with these pentathlons, in which we were planting these trees all over 5 pilot sites. Now we are not yet prepared to be sure about the cleaning, but of course there are some measures that have been that are already there as GIS systems, sensors, and other kind of measurement to be sure that we really have cleaned the soil, and then it will come with the public health consequences of this cleaning. There you have some of the elements that we have been talking about all the morning that are affecting our health, and I don't want to forget this idea of the participatory process and counting with people, on people, when we are working from the environmental or public health perspective. I am not going to show to you the planetary boundaries framework, because I understand that you know it. We have been talking all the morning about microplastics, so novel entities, these new dimensions. But what is important for me beyond the planetary boundaries is the donut, what is inside. Because as I was explaining, it's not only about cleaning the soil, it's about a synchronicity that has not jobs, has not opportunities, and we need, as some of you were asking before, what about money? How are you going to make it? How are you going to make it real? And we need to take into consideration all these issues, not as a problem, but as an opportunity. And indeed, I think what, thanks to innovation in the city and in this kind of European initiatives, luckily we are doing, and it's innovation and a holistic way of thinking what allows us to go beyond. So if we enter in the need of green infrastructures for a resilient society, we will see that if we link green infrastructures, or green and blue, just not to forget the other important ones, we can link with the ecosystem services approach, and we can see that it's about health, of course, the number 4. But it's also about a good life, feeling safe, have a good network of social relationships that, according to my information, make us to live more, and of course freedom of choice. Technology, yes, for the good. So GIS systems, why? Because we need to measure if really these willows are cleaning really the soil, and a good way of measuring this impact is GIS solutions. The cascade effects and this resilient way of thinking that is linking somehow public health, research and innovation, and, as Anna was pointing out before, the need of political will, so social policy, and the need of employment and jobs to make it real. So you can see how, thanks to the willows that of course are at the center of everything, the project builds an entire new mindset, holistic, that, okay, we have all the technology, we have all the hubs and the physical headquarters we need. We count on participatory approaches with people and decision makers. Every time that we run a project, we have our indicators, our monitoring and evaluation system, of course, as always. And then what happens when we harvest these willows? Because we are going to have a lot of biomass. And I am not going to enter in the part of some biomass is not going to be clean entirely, so we need a second filter to be able to use some of the biomass. But the biomass is a resource. And when it comes, the jobs scheme. So we have the biomass as energy, and we have the biomass to develop new, in the new jargon we call it bio-based new business models. But I love this possibility. And of course, again, we come back to the idea of that we are working on a city, so all this clean new land will be able to be retrofitting the footprint of the city in the future. Of course, the phytoremediation measures are slow, are cheaper than removing all the polluted land and burying the body in some coffin out there. And it's not so expensive, but it's slower. So till 2050, 2045, we are not going to see the concrete results. Of course, again, technology. So we are also counting in some measure as this app, this new token that is a reward system that is trying to change behaviors or other of the concepts that we have been talking during the morning. And yes, I need to bring to the table these two big frameworks. So the Global Alliance for Chronic Diseases and the Global Action Plan on Physical Activity, both of them validated by WHO. And in both, we are talking about changing behaviors, but also changing the physical environment we are living in. We are not going to make it if we don't address both. And the policy actions and the policy will that should be there. And just to end this last pentathlon in Bahia Mar last year, and some takeaways. You have it there. So quality of life in cities has to count on green and blue infrastructure, just by default. We need to understand that cities are our physical environment, and we need to understand them and to change them for the good. So we need to redefine what does it mean green space in a city. We need to redefine what does it mean green infrastructure on how the services of these infrastructures are going to affect our health. And we need to convince the ones that are not so convinced that is an investment worth making. So nature-based solutions and tactics create really an entirely new environment, and we can see exponential gains in the future with positive side effects that we are still to discover. Thanks.
Thank you, Maya, for your wonderful presentation. If there are any questions, also for Anne and Amaia, we can continue. Yeah.
Melissa was maybe
Professor.
before.
Melissa. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, both of you, for these great presentations. Regarding the last presentation about food security, availability, etc., I believe this is in the context of Spain, the Mediterranean diet, etc. Have you considered there if you want to expand it to other, to be able to expand it to other contexts, to adapt it to them? Has the genetic factor crossed your mind about how it would differ from one kind of genetics to the others of different population?
Thanks for the question. Our project don't focus only on Mediterranean diet. It's only one option. There's many solutions, and we should offer the consumer many options in our context because we have those local products. It makes sense, but since we are working with European partners, they have at the north the Nordic diet, but as well there's many other plant-based or other options that stay, and they have different different colors, but they could be all included in a plant-rich traditional diets that could help us to move towards that. Regarding the genetic variations of individuals, we've seen that if they are not severe genetic issues, they don't, environment and how lifestyle really count much more. So we really have to change how we live, what we eat, how we do exercise, and if we sleep or not, because all those three are three pillars.
I was just about to say the epigenetics of the people, yeah.
Which that's what, and yes, exposoma, of course. It's there, and we have to take it into account as another variable. So even more complex.
Right. I was just thinking, Margarita, to mention about the epigenetic factor of people. Yes, you have the genes, you can turn them on or off depending on the lifestyle decisions you have. And Gabby touched a very interesting and important factor there about the availability. First, availability of different kinds of food.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, availability of people to actually buy it or not, depending on their social context, on their economical context. I come from Mexico, so I am kind of familiar with what it's that about, and we find it sometimes hard just to adapt it to the current situation where you're not being well paid at your job and the prices of food are just getting higher, growing higher, and with the climate crisis even more, because there are crop failures, and that's why this is a complex crisis that we are facing. But thank you for your studies, and thank you for sharing the information.
I can add, Melissa, that our UNESCO chair on health education and sustainable development in Naples, we started to propose a project which is called the Planetarian Diet, which means to refer to the nutritional principles of Mediterranean diet and the way of cooking and preparing foods, which have been recognized as healthy. There is really so much evidence in the literature about that, but they can be applied in every country of the world with the foods available locally. You don't need to import our watermelons,
yes.
Okay? And it's called Planetarian Diet. You will find it on the internet if you look. We published already some papers with the pyramids for every continent. And it's a project everybody can join on our website of the UNESCO chair, napoli.it.
Yes. I have a question for your nice presentation. Thank you. And the very best practice that you have presented. I want to ask you, you have linked your models with the proper waste management system, because I think in all these models, all these projects, very often we forgot that there is a wide production of waste material and that we have to manage them. So I want to think if you have considered this problem.
Are we talking about the wash and sanitation system from the domestic part of the city, so from the houses? No, I think this could be a second phase. We are taking care of the solid waste and everything that has to do with water when it comes to irrigation of these kind of plots that are contaminated. But we are not entering in the pipelines of the
solid waste management, I mean, because the practices that you have presented have a large, huge production of solid waste. So I think that you have to take into account this aspect.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Hi, I had a question for Anna regarding the different practices, because we've discussed how like biological food is often proposed as a very valid alternative. However, when it is implemented in an unplanned way, as we've seen in the case with Sri Lanka most recently, it can lead to the issue of reducing the profitability and especially reducing the amount of food that can be produced by hectare, and therefore in a world in which we are still undergoing a huge increase in population, we are planning to eventually eat 10 billion people, having enough land to provide everyone with sustainable grown food requires extensive changes, and we are still don't have enough information about how potentially effective sustainable regenerative agriculture can be. Regenerative agriculture without the sustainable etiquette add to it, and even biological agriculture can be. There are a lot of different standards that are not internationally recognized, and it's extremely important to still be able to provide food. For sure, decreasing the amount of meat is gonna off-balance most of these issues, but it could not be enough by itself, especially with the reduce in productivity that we have due to the extensive use of industrial agriculture in the last century. Have you considered, what are some solutions that you've considered for this issue?
I'm not an expert on the production side, but what I've been reading and I've been seeing, of course, the ecological, it's less like the efficiency to produce, obviously it's reduced. So we've been telling that we have to look on a eco-friendly model. And the experts on that, they've done modeling, which is done on food patterns, but as well on production. And they talk about the agri-eco transition that as well looks on the efficiency of energy for the all the technology in a farm. I mean, the land that we use. I mean, it's integrated on an efficiency way of production, which I think should be the way. Not only focusing on, okay, we put like less chemicals. Yes, we are going to produce less. We have to be open about the genetically modified, because maybe it's more resistant and it helps us to produce in a more efficient way. We have to tackle some issues and some barriers that we have as well. And sometimes it's hard to decide what's best at whole, because there's many options, and as well you have to really apply system thinking and, okay, this problem here, how do we solve it? Yes, of course we have to look the umbrella, but you have to find solutions locally at each decision. I mean, if you are supposed to find an option for a city, no, like we are talking about urban, then yes, the local government is now trying to produce more eco-friendly and have a larger space in the retail, try to promote the local, and so that all markets have it. And so green public procurement in schools and hospitals, that's the way. I mean, because if you don't put an example on the public system and you make it by law that you have to have a certain amount of local products in vending, like you have to really think about the consequences of every food you put in our plate, and in all the consequences.
Another great benefit of public procurement is that it's planned. So a smallholder farmer will know that somebody will buy their organic food for years to come. So it's worth the risk of having less potential, less productive choice if you just know that somebody will buy it for sure. Otherwise, it might. So yeah, I agree completely on the importance of public procurement.
Well, if there are no more questions, our guest speakers can remain here if they want, and they can interact with the people who will present their posters, their researchers. And I would start.